What's up, everybody? It's Peaceful here. So I wanted to take a minute and go ahead and go over the new cards we're getting this month. This is Phoenix Force month. So we're gonna have Phoenix Force is the featured card. We got some other X-Men. Honestly, this looks like a pretty fun month. I don't know how many meta-defining cards we're gonna have from this month. Most of these look more like niche players, but I figured we go over them and kind of give you my thoughts and opinions and where I would want to use them. So here we go. First up, we do have the season pass card for this month. It is Phoenix Force, and it is a 5 cost, 6 energy. On reveal, you revive with one of your destroyed cards and merge with it. That card can move each turn. I guess the idea behind this is that you can destroy something like the Human Torch, combine it with Phoenix Force, and then start moving it around, get the benefits from the Human Torch. From the video, it looks like this gains the power and adds it to, like it literally does what it says. It combines with that card. So if you did say combine with the Human Torch, you would become a 5/8 that when you moved it each turn would double. Now, how good is this? Uh, the big issue with this card, honestly, is that it costs 5. So anything you're combining it with, you're only going to really get the benefit once at most, unless you are ramping somehow. So how do we make this work, right? That's my big issue with this card. It seems hard to make this a reliable win condition when you have to both play the move card, destroy the move card, and then also bring it back with this and then actually have time to move it around and do stuff. So my thinking was something like Human Torch into Carnage, which then you can ramp on 3 and then play this on 4, and then you get 2 turns at least. And even then, you're talking about something that basically wins you 1 lane. And it is very powerful. You get to win that 1 lane, and no one really knows exactly what lane you're going to move it to. So your opponent can't really play around it all that well. But I just don't see this being a big player. I would love to be wrong, but that's the thing about Marvel Snap compared to a lot of other card games. There's a lot of other card games where you can look at a card and be like, oh, okay, I can see how you can set this up in order to make this good. But Marvel Snap, you just don't really have time. You have 6 turns. So as much as I would love for this to be a big player, I don't see it happening without some other synergies released. Next up, we have Jean Grey, so the Phoenix herself. She is a 3 cost, 3 power, and she has an ongoing effect that says players must play their first card here each turn if possible. This is a really interesting card in that it forces your opponent into a certain play style that they don't want to do, and it kind of gives you an advantage to where you can build your deck around her and your opponent doesn't necessarily have their deck built around her, so they can't necessarily play in those style that they want to because you have this on board blocking their plays. Now, that said, there's a lot of balance and things in the metagame right now, so I don't think this is all that good. Any deck that has lower cost cards can just fill up the lane she's in and then start doing stuff where they want to. And I don't see it being all that impactful. Now, that said, the fact that this is ongoing and happens every single turn does make it to where you can sort of play that to your advantage. Like maybe you even just you play a lot of low cost stuff, but you sort of throw your weakest cards into this lane and build up stronger lanes elsewhere, and just use this as a bait to throw 1 lane. It's just a really it's an interesting card, and in theory, I could see this being really strong. I guess we'll just honestly, I think we'll just have to see. I don't see this being a big metagame player, but I'm certainly going to try and make it work. So next up, we have Echo. This is a 1 cost, 2 power, and it says after your opponent plays an ongoing card here, remove its ability. So important to note, this is not a one-time thing. This is an ongoing thing, ironically, but it's more like a triggered ability, not an ongoing ability, obviously. And she really kind of frees up certain decks that really need their on reveals to go off, that really need things like to not be interfered with. They need a destroy deck that doesn't want to get wrecked by armor in a certain lane, or like a Wong deck that really like needs to set up its Wong Mystique Gambit, right? So that's how you're planning on winning the game. So you go Echo early in the game, you follow that up with Wong, Mystique, because it doesn't affect you, it only affects your opponents. So this seems like a niche player to me. Like there's a lot of applications for it, but as a tech card, it's not as good because once it's down, your opponent knows where it is, and they're just going to play any important ongoings that they want somewhere else. So there is an interesting uh, there is interesting counterplay to that. I think it'll be interesting to see if this is a strong player in the metagame. I don't personally see it, but I do like the card. It's nice to finally have an answer to Cosmo, right? So as they said in the video. Next up, we have Mirage, and I think this is my personal favorite card from this month. It's just a really cool looking card. This is a 2 cost, 2 power, and it says on reveal, copy the lowest cost card in your opponent's hand into your hand and give it 2 power. So it's kind of like a smaller White Queen, but the card you still gets a buff. And information is so crucial. Just the fact that this gives you a copy of something your opponent's going to play, but better, and then you know sort of what their game plan is, what to play around, even earlier in the game than White Queen. A lot of times your opponent hasn't played that much on turn one, turn two, and you play this turn two, you get a powerful card to make up for the slight tempo loss that Mirage gives, and then also get a ton of information to work with. I think this is a really cool card. Now, where does it go exactly? That I don't know. That's something we're gonna that players are just gonna have to figure out because I do think this is a very cool card. And anything that generates resources, like something like this, is similar to something like Mariah Hill, right? Except this is just better because the cards that your opponent puts in their deck are probably pretty good, right? They built their deck with them, so they're probably better than the average 1 or 2 cost card you're going to get. Plus, it gets a buff. So I do think this is a really, really cool effect, and I'm excited to try it out. Last up, we have Legion. So poor Legion, Omega level mutant, trash tier ability. Don't I don't know exactly what Second Dinner was scared of with this card. I guess I don't know. I've looked at this card so many times, and I do see how this card would be very problematic at like say 2 or 3 cost, right? Because like something like Death's Domain shows up, and you just play this into Death's Domain after you already have a board lead, and suddenly your opponent's locked out on turn three. That's probably not a great play pattern to have exist, but it's so reliant on a location showing up you actually want to do that with, and it's such a niche application. There's going to be games where that effect would do nothing. So having it on a 5 cost, 8 power, I have a hard time seeing what deck would ever want to run this. I think this is one of the worst cards we've gotten in a long time. I I mean, at least it's 8 power, I guess, right? That's pretty good for 5. I mean, I don't know. This card just like I can't imagine ever putting this in a deck or why I would ever want to put this in a deck. So, yeah, this is an interesting one. Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully this has some sort of niche applications where we end up playing it and then it finds a home in a certain deck, but I don't know. We'll see. And that's it for today. I just wanted to kind of go over the new cards. So, what does everyone else think? What are your all's favorite cards from this month? Do you think Phoenix Force is actually going to be a player in the metagame? What uses do you see for it that maybe I'm missing? Let me know in the comments. And thanks for watching.